Yuna's hands shook as her father counted the silver coins Lord Takashi's steward had placed on the table. 20 pieces. That's what she was worth now. 20 silver coins, less than her father had paid for their ox last spring. She's barren, her father said, not looking at her. Not looking at the daughter he was selling like spoiled rice. 3 physicians confirmed it. But she can clean, cook, and serve. She'll work hard. She knows her place now. Lord Takashi's steward smiled coldly. My lord doesn't care about her fertility. He needs servants, not breeding stock. She'll do it. 3 days later, Yuna discovered they were all catastrophically wrong. Before we dive into the story of a woman who was thrown away by everyone she loved and discovered by the one person who saw her true worth, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel brings you stories where the rejected become queens, where worthlessness is revealed as priceless, and where sometimes the monsters treat us more humanly than our own blood ever did. Now, let's witness how 3 days can destroy everything you thought was true. 1 year after her failed marriage. Yuna had known this day was coming. After her husband divorced her 6 months ago, after the 3 physicians her family had desperately consulted all confirmed the same diagnosis, barren, incurable, her womb is closed, after the whispers through the village had turned her name into a curse word for bad luck, after her younger sister's wedding had been cancelled because the family is tainted with infertility, after all of that, Yuna had known her father would find a way to cut his losses. She just hadn't expected him to sell her quite this cheaply. 20 silver, her father repeated, pocketing the coins with hands that didn't tremble at all. And you'll take her today? Immediately, the vampire lord's steward confirmed. He was human, most vampire lords employed human stewards to handle daylight business, but his eyes held the cold efficiency of someone who'd served the undead long enough to become like them. Lord Takashi has recently expanded his territory. He needs additional staff for the estate. Your daughter will serve in the kitchens and gardens. Basic labor. Nothing she can't handle, barren or not. The casual way he said it, barren or not, like it was just another descriptor, not the word that had destroyed Yuna's entire life, made something in her chest crack. I'll get my things, Yuna said quietly. You have things. Her stepmother, her father's second wife, who'd never liked her, laughed sharply. Girl, you were already wearing everything you own when you came crawling back here after your divorce. You have nothing. You are nothing. Go with the steward and try not to embarrass us further by making Lord Takashi regret his purchase. Purchase. Not employment. Not hiring. Purchase. Because that's what Yuna was now. Property. Sold to recoup 20 silver pieces of her family's lost face. She bowed to her father one last time, he didn't return it, and followed the steward out of the house she'd grown up in. No one said goodbye. No one asked if she'd be safe. No one cared. The vampire estate was 3 hours' walk into the mountains, far enough from the village that sunlight would be minimal during winter months. The main house was ancient, black wood and gray stone, built in a style that predated the current dynasty by centuries. Beautiful, Yuna thought distantly. And terrifying. You'll sleep in the servants' quarters, the steward explained as they walked through increasingly shadowed courtyards. Eat with the other staff. Work from sunrise to sunset. Lord Takashi rarely interacts with servants directly, he has senior staff for that. Do your job, stay out of trouble, and your life here will be tolerable. And if I can't do the work? Yuna asked. Not because she planned to fail, but because she needed to know what failure looked like here. Then you'll be sold again. To someone less particular. The steward's expression made it clear that less particular meant something very, very bad. Lord Takashi is actually quite reasonable as vampire lords go. He doesn't feed on staff without permission. He pays fair wages. He doesn't tolerate abuse of servants by senior vampires. You could do much worse. It was probably meant to be reassuring. It wasn't. They passed through a garden, dormant for winter but clearly beautiful in other seasons, and Yuna glimpsed movement in an upper window. A figure, tall and still, watching their approach. Is that Lord Takashi? She whispered. Yes. He likes to observe new arrivals. Make sure they're suitable. The steward's pace quickened. Don't stare. Don't speak unless spoken to. Don't. I know how to be invisible, Yuna interrupted quietly. I've had a year of practice. The steward looked at her with something that might have been pity. Good. Invisibility is safe here. They reached the servants' entrance, and Yuna was handed off to the head housekeeper, a stern-faced woman named Hataru who looked her over with the critical eye of someone assessing a tool's usefulness. Barren, the paperwork says, Hataru commented, reading from a ledger. Divorced. Sold by family. No references. No skills listed. Can you clean? Yes. Cook. Basic meals. Sew. Yes. Read. Yuna hesitated. Reading was unusual for women of her class, but her mother, her real mother, who died when Yuna was 12, had taught her secretly. Yes. A little. Hataru's eyebrow rose. Interesting. Most servants can't. That might be useful. She closed the ledger. You'll start in the gardens. Lord Takashi is particular about his gardens. Winter maintenance is tedious but necessary. If you do well there, we'll see about moving you to indoor duties. Thank you, Yuna said, bowing. Don't thank me yet. The gardens are where Lord Takashi walks every evening. You'll see him. He'll see you. Try not to do anything memorable. Hataru's expression softened slightly. I mean that kindly, girl. In this house, being memorable can be dangerous. Invisibility is better. Invisible. Safe. Worthless. Yuna was very good at being all three. She met Lord Takashi on her first evening. She'd been pruning dead branches from a winter jasmine vine, careful work that required attention and gentle hands, when she'd felt the temperature drop. Not gradually, but suddenly, as if winter itself had concentrated into one space. You're the new one. Yuna turned, still on her knees in the dirt, and looked up. Lord Takashi was tall, taller than any man she'd ever seen, with features that would have been beautiful if they weren't so cold. His hair was black, pulled back in a style that showed off the sharp angles of his face. His eyes were dark, almost black, not the crimson she'd expected from a vampire. He was studying her with an intensity that made her want to disappear. Yes, my lord, Yuna said, keeping her eyes lowered. I arrived this morning. You're afraid of me. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. I would be foolish not to be, my lord. True. He stepped closer, and Yuna forced herself not to flinch. But you're not trembling. Your heart rate is elevated, yes, but controlled. You're afraid, but not panicked. Why? Because I've already lost everything, Yuna thought. What more can you take? But she said, because fear is useless unless it keeps you alive, my lord. Panic serves no purpose. Silence. Then a sound that might have been a laugh. Practical. I like practical things. Lord Takashi crouched down, actually crouched in the dirt beside her, and examined the vine she'd been working on. You have gentle hands. The cut is clean. Angled properly to promote spring growth. Who taught you gardening? My mother, my lord. Before she died. And your family sold you anyway. It wasn't a question. Because you're barren. The word hit like a physical blow, even though she'd heard it 1,000 times. But from his mouth, in his clinical tone, it felt different. Not like an accusation. Like a fact he was confirming. Yes, my lord. 3 physicians said so, according to the paperwork. Yes, my lord. All men, I assume. Yuna blinked, confused. Yes, my lord. There are no female physicians in our province. Lord Takashi stood, brushing dirt from his dark robes as if it was an afterthought. Continue your work. You're doing well. He walked away, leaving Yuna kneeling in the garden, confused and oddly seen. For the first time in a year, someone had looked at her and commented on her skill, not her failure. It was such a small thing. It felt enormous. The second day, he appeared again during her evening work. Tell me about your marriage, he said without preamble. Yuna's hand stilled on the pruning shears. my lord. Your marriage. The one that ended because you're supposedly barren. Tell me about it. It wasn't a request. It was a command. And commanders, Yuna had learned, must be obeyed. I was married at 18 to a merchant's son, she said carefully, focusing on the vine to avoid looking at him. It was a good match. His family was wealthier than mine. They expected an heir. Within the year. When I didn't conceive, they called physicians. How long after the wedding? 6 months, my lord. 6 months. His voice held a note she couldn't identify. And the physicians declared you barren after 6 months. They examined me. They said my womb was closed. Inhospitable. That I would never carry a child. The words still hurt to say, even now. My husband's family demanded a divorce. My father had to return the bride price. We couldn't afford it. So they. She stopped, unable to finish. So they sold you to me for 20 silver pieces. Lord Takashi completed the sentence. Less than an ox. Less than a decorative garden stone. 20 pieces of silver for a human woman with gentle hands and practical fear. Yes, my lord. And do you believe them? The physicians. Yuna finally looked up at him, confused. My lord. Do you believe you're barren? Do you feel broken? Closed? Inhospitable? His dark eyes fixed on hers, and she couldn't look away. Or do you think, perhaps, that 3 men who likely never asked about your husband's capacity decided it was easier to blame you than investigate further? The question hit her like cold water. In the entire year since her divorce, not once, had anyone suggested the problem might not be hers. Yuna's voice failed her. I don't know what to think, my lord. Think about this. Lord Takashi crouched again, this time close enough that she could feel the cold radiating from him. Vampire senses are more acute than humans. I can hear your heart. Your breathing. The blood moving through your veins. And nothing about you feels closed or inhospitable. You feel. He paused, as if searching for the right word. Dormant. Like this garden in winter. Not dead. Just waiting. Yuna's breath caught. My lord, why are you telling me this? Because I dislike waste, he said simply. And you are being wasted. Your family wasted you. Your husband's family wasted you. Those fool physicians wasted you. I don't waste things. Or people. He stood, preparing to leave again. Lord Takashi, Yuna called out, surprising herself. If I'm not barren. If the physicians were wrong. Why didn't I conceive with my husband? Lord Takashi looked back at her, and for the first time, she saw something that might have been amusing in his dark eyes. Perhaps, he said slowly, your body knew he wasn't worthy. And then he was gone, leaving Yuna alone with a thought that felt like revolution. What if she'd never been broken at all? The third day, everything changed. Yuna woke up feeling strange, not sick, exactly, but different. Her body felt warm, almost feverish, and there was an awareness in her core that she couldn't explain. She worked through the morning, pruning and weeding, but by afternoon, the heat had intensified. By evening, when Lord Takashi appeared for his usual walk, she was swaying on her feet. You're unwell, he observed immediately. I'm fine, my lord, Yuna lied. She wasn't fine. She was dizzy and hot and her stomach was churning and she collapsed. Strong, cold hands caught her before she hit the ground. Lord Takashi was suddenly there, impossibly fast, cradling her like she weighed nothing. Hataru, he called, his voice sharp with command. Fetch the physician. Now. My lord, I'm sorry, Yuna tried to say. I'll work. I can still. Be quiet, he said, but not unkindly. You're burning up. Humans aren't meant to run this hot. He carried her inside, actually carried her through the halls of his estate, past staring servants and shocked vampires, and laid her on a bed in what looked like a guest room. Stay, he commanded, as if she had any choice. The physician arrived minutes later, an elderly human with knowing eyes and gentle hands. He examined her while Lord Takashi paced nearby, radiating tense energy. Well? Lord Takashi demanded. The physician looked between them, his expression complicated. My lord, she's pregnant. Silence crashed over the room like a wave. Impossible, Yuna whispered. I'm Barren. 3 physicians. 3 physicians were wrong, the physician interrupted gently. My lady, you're approximately 3 days pregnant. The fever, the dizziness, it's your body adjusting to conception. Particularly fast conception, which is common when. He trailed off, looking at Lord Takashi meaningfully. When what? Yuna demanded. When one parent is a vampire, Lord Takashi finished, his voice strange. Vampire conception is different. Faster. More intense. The body recognizes it immediately. Yuna stared at him. But we haven't, you and I haven't. Haven't we? Lord Takashi's eyes met hers, and suddenly she remembered, 2 nights ago, when he crouched close in the garden, when his hand had steadied her shoulder, when his cold touch had felt electric against her skin. It lasted seconds. Maybe a minute. Nothing inappropriate. Nothing she would even call intimate. But vampire conception didn't work like human conception. Vampire conception could happen through a touch, through shared energy, through a moment of connection so profound that biology couldn't tell the difference between touch and intention. Oh, Yuna breathed. Oh no. Oh no. Lord Takashi's voice held a dangerous edge. Explain that reaction. My lord, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, I didn't think. Yuna tried to sit up, panic rising. You purchased me as a servant. Not for this. I've trapped you. Stop. He was at her side instantly, his cold hand on her forehead, checking her temperature. You've trapped nothing. Vampire conception isn't accidental. It's intentional. On some level, conscious or not, I chose this. We both did. But why would you? Because 3 physicians told you that you were worthless, Lord Takashi said, his voice fierce. Because your family sold you for 20 silver pieces. Because everyone you've ever known treated you like broken goods. And I wanted, he stopped, his jaw clenching. I wanted you to know they were wrong. All of them. Catastrophically, completely wrong. Tears burned Yuna's eyes. You got me pregnant, to prove a point. I got you pregnant, he corrected, because your body called to mine in a way I haven't felt in 2 centuries. Because when I touched you, something in me recognized something in you. Because vampire conception doesn't happen unless both souls consent, whether those souls tell their owners or not. His hand moved from her forehead to cup her face, gentle despite his obvious frustration. I got you pregnant because apparently, we both wanted this, even if neither of us was ready to admit it. I'm your servant, Yuna whispered. Bought for 20 silver pieces. You're the mother of my child, Lord Takashi corrected. Which means you're not my servant anymore. He paused, seeming to wrestle with something. You're mine. In a completely different way. If you'll accept that. Yuna should have been terrified. Should have been overwhelmed. Should have been protesting. Instead, all she could think was 3 days. It took 3 days for someone to see her as something more than her supposed brokenness. 3 days for a vampire, a creature she'd been taught to fear, to treat her with more humanity than her own blood family. 3 days for her entire world to shatter and rebuild itself into something unrecognizable. What happens now? She asked quietly. Lord Takashi smiled, actually smiled, and it transformed his cold face into something almost warm. Now, he said, we are preparing for a child. And we send a message to your family that their defective daughter is carrying the heir to a vampire territory. I imagine they'll have thoughts about that. Despite everything, the fear, the confusion, the impossible situation, Yuna laughed. It felt like revenge. It felt like vindication. It felt like victory. The news spread through the estate like wildfire. By morning, every servant, every vampire, every person within the territory knew, Lord Takashi's new servant, the one bought for 20 silver pieces, the one declared barren by 3 physicians, was pregnant with his child. Yuna woke in the guest room to find she'd been moved during the night to the Lord's private wing. Her tattered servant clothes had been replaced with a sleeping robe of soft silk. The room was warm, filled with morning light carefully filtered through curtains to protect vampire sensibilities, and someone had left a tray of food beside her bed. Real food. Not servant rations. Actual meals fit for what? She didn't know what she was now. A knock at the door made her jump. "Enter," Yuna called, pulling the robe tighter. Hataru entered, her expression complicated. "Good morning, I'm not sure how to address you now." "Yuna is fine," Yuna said quickly. "I'm still me. Still the woman who arrived 3 days ago." "You're the woman carrying Lord Takashi's heir," Hataru corrected gently. "That makes you something considerably more than a servant, girl. And considerably less simple to navigate." She set down fresh clothing, not servant clothes, but not noble robes either. Something in between. "Lord Takashi has requested your presence for breakfast. In his private dining room. Just the two of you." Yuna's stomach flipped. "I don't know how to act around him. I don't know what I'm supposed to be now." "Neither does he, I suspect," Hataru said with surprising warmth. "Lord Takashi hasn't taken a companion in over a century. Hasn't conceived a child in even longer. You've disrupted his carefully ordered world as much as he's disrupted yours. You'll figure it out together. And if we can't?" Hataru's expression turned serious. "Then you'll both be miserable, and that child will grow up in a house full of tension and regret. So I suggest you figure it out." She moved toward the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I've served Lord Takashi for 40 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looked at you when he carried you in yesterday. Whatever this is, it's not nothing. Give it a chance." After Hataru left, Yuna dressed slowly, her mind racing. 3 days ago, she was worthless. Barren. Sold like livestock. Now she was pregnant with a vampire lord's child, being summoned to private breakfasts, wearing silk robes. It felt like a dream. It felt like a trap. It felt like a possibility. Lord Takashi's private dining room was surprisingly warm, a small space with large windows, currently curtained, a low table, and cushions instead of chairs. Intimate. Personal. He was already there when she arrived, and he stood immediately upon seeing her. "Yuna. Please, sit. Are you feeling better?" "Yes, my lord," she said, kneeling at the table. "The fever passed during the night." "Takashi," he corrected. "When we're alone, use my name. My lord is for formal occasions and audiences. This is." He gestured between them. "Not that." "What is this, then?" Yuna asked quietly. "I don't know," he admitted, and his honesty was more reassuring than any smooth answer could have been. "I know what vampire courtship looks like. I know what human marriage looks like. This is neither. This is unprecedented." He poured tea for both of them, an oddly domestic gesture from a vampire lord, and pushed a cup toward her. "Tell me something," Takashi said. "In the garden, when I said your body might have known your husband wasn't worthy, did you believe me? Or were you just being polite?" Yuna considered the question while sipping her tea. "I wanted to believe you. I've spent a year thinking I was broken. The idea that I wasn't, that the problem was circumstance or incompatibility rather than fundamental wrongness, it felt like hope. But hope is dangerous when you've been disappointed as many times as I have. And now," he pressed. "Now that you're pregnant 3 days after entering my estate. Now that your body has proven 3 physicians catastrophically wrong. Now I'm angry," Yuna said, surprising herself with the admission. "I'm furious. A year of shame. Of being treated like defective goods. Of watching my father's disappointment, my stepmother's disgust, my former husband's family celebrating that they'd discovered my flaw in time. All of it was based on, what? Incompatibility. Bad timing. 3 men's assumptions. Yes." Takashi's voice was hard. "Male physicians examine female patients and make pronouncements without truly understanding. Your husband likely had low fertility, common in men his age who've indulged in alcohol or certain herbs. But it's always easier to blame the woman. It is always easier to declare her broken than investigate further. How do you know so much about human fertility? Yuna asked. I'm 800 years old, Takashi said simply. I've seen this pattern repeat countless times. A woman declared barren, discarded, sold or abandoned. Then months or years later, with a different partner, she conceives easily. Because the problem was never her. It was compatible. Timing. The partner's fertility. But society would rather blame women than admit men might be equally responsible for failed conception. The bitterness in his voice suggested personal history. Yuna filed that away to ask about later. So what happens now? She asked. I'm pregnant. With your child. But I was sold to you. I have no legal standing. No family to negotiate for me. No. You have me, Takashi interrupted firmly. And I have legal standing enough for both of us. But Yuna, I need you to understand something. Vampire pregnancy is different from humans. It's faster, you'll be showing in weeks, not months. The baby will be born in 6 months, not 9. And the process is intense. Your body will change in ways that will frighten you. You'll need blood, not to drink, but as supplements. Your senses will sharpen. You'll be caught between human and vampire in ways that might be uncomfortable. Am I turning? The thought terrified her. No. But you're hosting a half-vampire child. Your body will adapt to protect that child. Temporarily. After birth, you'll return to being fully human. He paused. Unless you choose otherwise. Choose to become a vampire? Yuna's voice came out higher than intended. Not immediately. Not now. But eventually, if you wanted. I could offer that. The child will be half-vampire. They'll live for centuries. Did you want to be there for only the first few decades of their life? Or would you want to be there for all of it? It was too much. Too big a question. Yuna's head spun. I don't have to decide now, do I? She asked weakly. No, Takashi said gently. You have years to decide. Maybe decades. I'm simply making you aware of the option. But for now, we focus on the pregnancy. On keeping you healthy. On preparing for a child that's going to shock both our worlds. Our worlds, Yuna repeated. The vampire world and my village. My family. Takashi's expression hardened. Your former family. They sold you. They have no claim on you now. Or the child. But they'll come, Yuna said with certainty. When they find out I'm pregnant, that the Barren daughter they sold is carrying a vampire lord's heir, they'll come. My father will want to renegotiate. My stepmother will suddenly care about my well-being. They'll pretend the sale was a misunderstanding, that they were protecting me, that. Let them come, Takashi said coldly. I'll enjoy telling them exactly what I think of parents who sell their children for 20 silver pieces. Despite her anxiety, Yuna felt a smile tug at her lips. You're very protective for someone who's known me for 3 days. You're carrying my child, he said simply. That makes you precious. Worth protecting. Worth, he stopped, seeming to reconsider his words. I didn't plan this, Yuna. I want you to know that. I didn't purchase you with the intention of making you pregnant. But when it happened, when our bodies recognized each other in that moment in the garden. His eyes met hers. I wasn't sorry. I'm still not sorry. Are you? Yuna thought about it. I really thought about it. 3 days ago, she was worthless. Today, she was valued. Precious, even. 3 days ago, she had no future. Today, she was growing one inside her body. 3 days ago, she was alone. Today, a vampire lord was asking if she regretted creating life with him. No, she said quietly. I'm not sorry. I'm terrified. I'm confused. I don't know how to be whatever I'm supposed to be now. But I'm not sorry. Takashi's shoulders relaxed, as if he'd been holding tension she hadn't noticed. Good. That's good. They ate in companionable silence for a moment, and Yuna marveled at how normal this felt. Breakfast with a vampire lord. Discussing pregnancy like it was an everyday occurrence. Planning for a future she couldn't have imagined 4 days ago. What was her name? Yuna asked suddenly. The woman who made you bitter about male physicians and female patients. Takashi stilled, his teacup halfway to his lips. Perceptive. You spoke from experience. Old pain. I recognize it because I have my own. He set down the cup. Her name was Hanako. 200 years ago. She was declared barren by her village physicians. Her family tried to sell her, but I purchased her as a servant before they could sell her somewhere worse. She fell in love with one of my human guards. Got pregnant within weeks. The physicians had been wrong, she wasn't barren, she'd just been married to a man who was infertile but too proud to admit it. What happened to her? She lived a long, happy human life with her guard. I had 5 children. Died peacefully at 80, surrounded by grandchildren. Takashi smiled, but it was bittersweet. I attended her funeral. She'd specifically requested I be there. She wanted to thank me, she said, for giving her the chance to prove everyone wrong. That's why you knew, Yuna realized. Why did you suspect the physicians were wrong about me? Because you'd seen it before. History, Takashi said quietly, has a way of repeating itself. Especially the cruel parts. I've learned to recognize the patterns. Yuna reached across the table, a bold move, probably inappropriate, and touched his hand. Cold, as always, but solid. Real. Thank you, she said. For recognizing the pattern. For not believing I was broken. For this. She touched her stomach, where a child, impossible, miraculous, was growing. Takashi turned his hand over, clasping hers gently. Thank you for being brave enough to trust me. Even when you had no reason to. I had every reason, Yuna corrected. You were kind when no one else was. You saw value when everyone else saw waste. That's more than reason enough. They sat like that for a long moment, hands joined across the breakfast table, 2 people from different worlds beginning to build something neither fully understood but both wanted to try. Yuna was declared worthless, sold for 20 silver pieces, and proved everyone wrong in just 3 days. Now she's building a life with the vampire who saw her value when her own family couldn't. Have you ever been underestimated by the people who should have believed in you most? How did you prove them wrong? Drop your story in the comments, I want to hear how you turned rejection into victory. 2 weeks passed in a strange, suspended peace. Yuna's body changed rapidly, her stomach showed a small, definite curve by day 10. Her senses sharpened, she could hear conversations from rooms away, smell the subtle differences in blood types when vampires passed nearby. And the hunger, not for food, but for something richer, deeper, began to emerge. It's normal, the estate physician assured her during daily examinations. The child needs blood to develop. Your body is craving what it needs. We'll supplement with specially prepared broths, animal blood mixed with herbs and nutrients. It will satisfy hunger without requiring you to actually drink blood directly. Will I want human blood? Yuna asked, terrified of the answer. No. Your body recognizes you're human. You're craving blood as nutrition, not as sustenance in the vampire sense. Think of it like craving iron-rich foods during normal pregnancy. Just, more intense. Takashi had been attentive without being smothering. He checked on her multiple times daily, ensured she had everything she needed, and spent evenings talking with her, learning about each other, building the foundation of whatever relationship they were creating. He told her about his 8 centuries of existence. She told him about her short, painful human life. They traded stories like currency, building trust one truth at a time. Yuna was beginning to think this might actually work. And then her family arrived. She was in the garden, still tending plants, though now in fine clothes and with servants offering to do the heavy work for her, when the commotion at the gates reached her ears. I demand to see my daughter. Her father's voice, loud and imperious. I am her father. I have rights. Yuna's hand stilled on the pruning shears. You have no rights here, Hataru's voice responded coldly. You sold those rights for 20 silver pieces. Leave before Lord Takashi decides to discuss your parenting choices personally. The sale was a misunderstanding. I was protecting her. Placing her in a good household where she could be useful despite her condition. Yuna felt her jaw clench. Even now, even knowing she was pregnant, he couldn't stop calling her Barren. Her condition, a new voice said, cold, dangerous, absolutely furious, has proven to be a lie. Your daughter is pregnant with my heir. Which means the Barren diagnosis you used to justify selling her was either gross medical incompetence or a convenient excuse to dispose of a daughter you found burdensome. Which is it? Takashi. He'd arrived at the gates. Yuna dropped the shears and ran, or tried to run, but her body was awkward now, the baby making her movements less graceful. By the time she reached the gates, a scene had formed. Her father stood with her stepmother and younger sister, all dressed in their finest clothes, Yuna noted bitterly, that were much nicer than anything they'd owned 2 weeks ago. They'd clearly come into money recently. Behind them stood her ex-husband's family. The in-laws who'd called her cursed. They'd all come. Everyone who'd rejected her. Everyone who'd decided she was worthless. And they were all staring at her rounded stomach with expressions ranging from shock to calculating greed. Yuna. Her father's face lit up with false warmth. Daughter. You're looking well. We've been so worried about you. You sold me for 20 silver pieces, Yuna said flatly. You didn't even say goodbye. Worried is an interesting word choice. We were protecting you. Her stepmother pushed forward. We knew Lord Takashi's household was respectable. We wanted you somewhere safe. You wanted me somewhere out of sight, Yuna corrected. Somewhere my shameful barrenness wouldn't taint my sister's marriage prospects. Don't pretend this was kindness. Yuna, please. Her younger sister, Hana, who Yuna had once loved, stepped forward with tears in her eyes. We missed you. We were wrong to let you go. Come home. Bring the baby. We can be a family again. The manipulation was so transparent it would have been funny if it wasn't so painful. No, Yuna said simply. You're still my daughter, her father blustered. I have legal rights. You can't. You have no rights, Takashi interrupted, his voice like ice. You sold her. Legally, officially, with witnesses and documents. You transferred all parental claims when you accepted payment. Yuna is under my protection now. You have no authority here. The baby is my grandchild, her father tried. The baby is my child, Takashi countered. Half vampire. Heir to my territory. Your bloodline is irrelevant. Yuna's ex-mother-in-law pushed forward then, her face twisted with anger. This is outrageous. She was barren with my son. 3 physicians confirmed it. She must have tricked you, Lord Takashi. Trapped you somehow. The child can't possibly be. Are you suggesting, Takashi said softly, dangerously, that I am too foolish to know my own child? That a human woman could trap a vampire lord who's lived 8 centuries? Please, continue. I'm fascinated by your logic. The woman paled and stepped back. Takashi turned his attention to Yuna's father. You came here expecting what, exactly? That we'd welcome you with open arms. Negotiate some financial arrangement for your grandchild. Perhaps you hope to recoup your lost bride price by claiming familial rights. From her father's expression, that was exactly what he'd hoped. Let me be clear, Takashi continued. Yuna is carrying my heir. That makes her the most important human in my territory. She will be provided for, protected, and valued for the rest of her life, whether that life is human length or extended through turning. You had your chance to value her. You chose 20 silver pieces instead. That was your choice. Now live with it. You can't keep her from her family, her father protested. I'm not keeping her from anyone, Takashi said coldly. She's free to see you whenever she wishes. Yuna, do you wish to see your family? All eyes turned to her. Yuna looked at her father, at the men who'd counted silver coins while selling his daughter. At her stepmother, who'd called her nothing. At her sister, who'd watched her leave without protest. At her ex-in-laws, who'd celebrated discovering her flaw. "No," she said clearly. "I don't." "But Yuna," her father began. "You sold me," Yuna interrupted, her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to overwhelm her. "You took money from me like I was livestock. You didn't ask if I'd be safe. Didn't ask if I'd be treated well. You just took the silver and told me not to embarrass you further. So no. I don't want to see you. I don't want your sudden interest in my well-being. I don't want your claims on my child. I want you to leave. Now. Think about what you're doing," her father's voice rose with desperation. "You're cutting off your family. Your blood. Your." "My blood," Yuna said coldly, "thought I was worth 20 silver pieces. Lord Takashi thought I was worth protection, kindness, and respect. I know which value I prefer." Takashi stepped beside her, his presence solid and supportive. "You've heard her answer. Leave. You're not welcome on my lands. If you attempt to contact Yuna again without her explicit permission, I'll consider it harassment and act accordingly." "This isn't over," her father started. "It is over," Hataru interrupted, appearing with a contingent of guards, both human and vampire. "Lord Takashi has spoken. Leave now, or be removed. Your choice." The family retreated, faces red with anger and shame, throwing threats and accusations that bounced off the gates like rain. When they were finally gone, Yuna felt her knees weaken. Takashi caught her immediately, supporting her weight. "You did well," he murmured. "That was brave." "That was terrifying," Yuna corrected, but she was smiling through tears. "They really thought I'd just go back. Pretend the last year never happened. People hear what they want to hear. See what they want to see." Takashi guided her back toward the house. "They saw a pregnant woman and assumed you'd be weak, grateful, desperate for family connection. They didn't see the woman who survived a year of shame and came out stronger." "I didn't feel strong," Yuna admitted. "I felt vindicated," Takashi supplied. "Yes." Yuna laughed, slightly hysterical. "Is it wrong that I enjoyed watching them realize they have no power over me anymore?" "It's human," Takashi said. "And satisfying. Nothing wrong with satisfaction, especially when it's earned." They walked in silence for a moment, then Yuna asked quietly, "Did you mean it? That I'm the most important human in your territory? Or was that just for show?" Takashi stopped walking and turned to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "Yuna, you're carrying my child. My first child in over 300 years. The only child I may ever have, given how rare vampire conception is. That alone makes you precious beyond measure. But beyond that." He paused, seeming to choose words carefully. "Beyond that, you've made me remember what it feels like to care about someone beyond duty or obligation. To want someone to be happy not because it serves me, but because their happiness matters for its own sake. So yes. I meant it. Every word." Yuna felt tears slip down her cheeks. "I think I'm falling in love with you." Takashi smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his cold features into something warm. "I think I fell in love with you the moment you told me fear was useless unless it kept you alive. Everything since has just been confirming what I already knew." He kissed her forehead, chaste, gentle, respectful of her ongoing adjustment to vampire proximity. "Come," he said. "You need to rest. Confronting your family was exhausting. The baby needs you to be calm." As they walked inside, Yuna felt something shift. Not just in her body, where the baby was growing, but in her heart, where hope, that dangerous, beautiful thing, was taking root. She'd been sold like livestock. She'd been declared worthless. She'd been thrown away by everyone who should have protected her. And somehow, impossibly, that had led her here. To a vampire lord who valued her. To a child growing inside her that proved everyone wrong. To a future that looked nothing like what she'd imagined but felt more right than anything she'd experienced before. 3 days. That's all it had taken. 3 days to go from nothing to everything. 6 months passed in a blur of physical changes and emotional growth. Yuna's pregnancy progressed at the accelerated vampire rate. By month 3, she looked ready to deliver. By month 5, the baby was so active and strong that she could see tiny hands and feet pressing against her skin from inside, desperately reaching for a world they hadn't yet entered. The hunger for blood had intensified. The specially prepared broths helped, but they weren't enough. By month 4, Yuna had needed to start taking small amounts of vampire blood directly, Takashi's blood, specifically, which the physician said would help the baby recognize its father's essence. The first time she'd drunk from his wrist, just a few drops, barely a taste, Yuna had felt the connection between them explode into something profound. She could feel his emotions, his ancient presence, his fierce protectiveness. And he could feel her fear, her determination, her growing love. They were bonding. Not just as parents to a shared child, but as mates in the vampire sense. Neither had planned it. Both had accepted it. After the baby comes, Takashi had said one evening, "You'll have a choice. The bond will fade if you're fully human. Or I could turn," Yuna had finished. "Become a vampire. Stay bonded. Stay with you for centuries instead of decades." "Yes. But it's your choice, Yuna. I won't pressure you. I won't. I want to," she'd interrupted quietly. "After the baby's born, after I've recovered, after I know they're healthy, I want to turn. I want to be there for all of their life, not just the beginning." And she'd looked up at him, vulnerable and certain all at once. "I want to be with you. For as long as forever lasts." His kiss had been her answer, no longer chaste, no longer hesitant. Deep, claiming, full of promise. Now, in the 6th month, as Yuna felt the first contractions begin, she held onto that promise like a lifeline. "It's time," she gasped, finding Takashi in his study. The baby. He was at her side instantly, calm despite the tension in his jaw. "How far apart are the contractions?" "Close. Maybe 10 minutes. They started an hour ago, but I thought it was false labor." "It's not false labor." He scooped her up easily, carrying her toward the prepared birthing room. "Hataru. Fetch the physician. The baby's coming." The estate erupted into organized chaos, servants running, physicians gathering, protective wards being reinforced around the birthing chamber. Half-vampire births were risky. The baby would be strong, potentially violent in its desperation to be born. The mother's human body would be strained to its limits. Yuna had been prepared for this. She'd read every text, consulted with the physician weekly, practiced the breathing techniques. Nothing prepared her for the actual reality. The pain was indescribable. Not just normal labor pain, but the sensation of hosting a being with supernatural strength desperately trying to claw its way into existence. Her body stretched, adapted, screamed in protest. "I can't," she gasped between contractions. "Takashi, it's too much." "You can," he said fiercely, holding her hand despite the fact that she was crushing his fingers with supernatural-aided strength. "You survived being sold. You survived being declared worthless. You survived your family's rejection. You can survive this. Our child is almost here, Yuna. Our miracle. Just a little more." Hours blurred together. Pain and pressure and desperate pushing. The physician's calm voice gave instructions. Hataru's steady presence provides water and encouragement. And Takashi, never leaving her side, his cold hand anchoring her to reality when the pain threatened to drag her under. Finally, a different kind of pressure. A shift. The physician's urgent voice, "One more push. I can see the head. One more." Yuna pushed with everything she had. And the world is filled with crying. Loud, furious, absolutely healthy crying. "It's a girl," the physician breathed, holding up a tiny, squirming infant. "A daughter. Perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, strong lungs." "Let me see her," Yuna gasped, arms reaching. They placed the baby on her chest, still covered in birth fluids, still screaming, still absolutely the most beautiful thing Yuna had ever seen. Tiny wisps of black hair. Eyes that flickered between human brown and vampire red, unable to decide which to settle on. And when Yuna touched her daughter's cheek, the baby's small hand wrapped around her finger with surprising strength. "Hello, little one," Yuna whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Hello, my miracle. My proof that everyone was wrong." Takashi leaned over them both, his expression unguarded in a way Yuna had never seen before. Wonder. Awe. Complete, overwhelming love. "She's perfect," he breathed. "You're both perfect." The baby stopped crying, seeming to recognize her father's voice. Her eyes, settling now into a brown-red mixture that was uniquely hers, focused on Takashi's face. She made a small sound, reaching for him. He carefully took her from Yuna, cradling his daughter like she was made of glass and starlight. The fierce vampire lord who'd lived 8 centuries, who'd seen empires rise and fall, who commanded territories and armies, reduced to tears by an infant who weighed less than a sack of rice. "What will you name her?" Hataru asked softly. Yuna and Takashi looked at each other, and somehow, they both knew. "Akira," Yuna said. "Bright. Clear. Intelligent." Because she proved the truth when everyone else believed lies. "Akira," Takashi agreed, testing the name. "Our daughter. Our truth." The baby, Akira, made a contented sound and promptly fell asleep in her father's arms, exhausted from the effort of being born. The recovery period was faster than normal human births. Vampire blood in her system had prepared Yuna's body for rapid healing. Within days, she was walking. Within 2 weeks, she was strong enough to begin considering the next step. The turning. "You don't have to do this now," Takashi said as they sat in the garden, their garden, where everything had started, with baby Akira sleeping in a cradle between them. "You could wait years. Decades, even. The choice will always be available." "I don't want to wait," Yuna said firmly. "Akira will live for centuries. I want to be there for all of it. Every moment. Every milestone. I don't want to miss a single day because I aged out of her life too quickly." "Turning is painful," Takashi warned. "Your body will die and be reborn. It takes 3 days of agony. And there's always a risk, small but present, that it could fail." "I survived giving birth to a half-vampire baby," Yuna said. "I think I can handle 3 days of transformation." "You're sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Yuna reached for his hand. "Make me a vampire, Takashi. Make me yours forever. Make me Akira's mother for all the centuries she'll need me." Takashi smiled, brought her hand to his lips, and kissed her palm. "Then we'll begin tomorrow. Tonight, you rest. Tomorrow, you die and are reborn. And by the end of the week, you'll be immortal." 3 days later, Yuna opened her new vampire eyes to a world transformed. Colors were more vivid. The sounds were sharper. She could hear Akira's heartbeat from 2 rooms away, the steady, strong beat that proved she'd never been broken, never been barren, never been worthless. She could smell blood, human, vampire, animal, and feel the hunger that came with her new nature. But more than that, she could feel Takashi's presence like a warm thread connecting them. The mate bond, fully formed and permanent now. "How do you feel?" Takashi asked, watching her with the careful attention he'd given her since the day they met. "Powerful," Yuna said, marveling at her transformed body. "Like I've been walking in fog my whole life and suddenly I can see." "Welcome to immortality," Takashi said, smiling. "Welcome to forever." Akira chose that moment to wake and begin crying, the universal sign that a baby needed something and needed it now. Yuna moved with her new vampire speed, reaching the cradle in less than a second, scooping up her daughter with the perfect control that came naturally to newborn vampires protecting their children. "I'm here," she murmured to Akira. "Mama's here. Forever and always. I promise." The baby settled immediately, recognizing her mother despite the changes. And Yuna looked at Takashi, her mate, her partner, the father of her child, and felt complete in a way she'd never imagined possible. From worthless to priceless. From barren to mother. From human to vampire. From broken to whole. All because a vampire lord had looked at her and seen value where everyone else had seen waste. 5 years later. The annual spring festival brought visitors from all the surrounding territories, human and vampire alike gathering to celebrate the season of rebirth. Lady Yuna, no longer a servant, no longer human, no longer anything resembling the girl who'd been sold for 20 silver pieces, stood in the great hall receiving guests alongside Lord Takashi, with 5-year-old Akira between them. Akira had grown into a remarkable child, quick, clever, with her father's strategic mind and her mother's compassionate heart. She could walk in daylight like a human or move with vampire speed when necessary. She charmed everyone she met and had already declared she wanted to be a diplomat who makes everyone be friends. She gets that from you, Takashi had said with amusement. I was never good at making friends. You made friends with me, Yuna countered. I fell in love with you. That's different. Now, as guests arrived and bowed with respect, Yuna felt a presence at the door that made her spine stiffen. Her family. Her father, stepmother, and sister. They'd been banned from the estate for 5 years, but the spring festival was a public event. They had a legal right to attend. They looked older. Worn. Her father's merchant business had failed, according to reports. Her sister had married poorly after rumors spread that their family had tainted blood. They were no longer prosperous. No longer proud. They were exactly what they deserved to be. Her father approached the receiving line, his face carefully neutral. Lord Takashi. Lady Yuna. May I offer congratulations on your continued prosperity? You may, Takashi said coldly. Though I question why you'd bother, given your opinion of my mate's value 5 years ago. Her father flinched. I was mistaken. Clearly. The physicians were wrong. The physicians were lazy, Yuna interrupted, her vampire voice carrying easily through the hall. They examine women for minutes, make assumptions, and declare them broken rather than investigate thoroughly. I wasn't barren. I was incompatible with my first husband and examined by incompetent physicians. The difference matters. Her sister stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Yuna, please. We were wrong. We're sorry. Can't we be family again? Yuna finished. No. Families don't sell each other. The family doesn't celebrate each other's supposed flaws. Family doesn't return only when there's something to gain. You're not my family. You're people who share my blood. There's a difference. But Akira, her stepmother tried, looking at the little girl. She should know her grandparents. She knows her grandparents, Yuna said firmly. Grandmother Wu visits weekly. She adores Akira. Akira adores her. That's family. You're strangers who happen to contribute to my birth. Nothing more. Akira, sensing tension, pressed closer to her mother's leg. Yuna's hand automatically went to her daughter's head, protective and comforting. You've made your choice clear, her father said stiffly. We'll respect it. See that you do, Takashi said. You're welcome to attend public festivals. You're not welcome to approach my mate or daughter again. Am I understood? They nodded and retreated, humiliation clear on their faces. When they were gone, Hataru appeared at Yuna's elbow. You handled that beautifully, my lady. I handled it honestly, Yuna corrected. They don't deserve pretty lies. No, Hataru agreed. They don't. Though I imagine they'll tell themselves you've become cold. Heartless. Changed by vampire turning. Let them, Yuna said, watching her former family disappear into the crowd. I'd rather be cold and loved than warm and discarded. I'd rather be a vampire and valued than human and worthless. They can think what they like. It doesn't change my truth. Takashi's arm came around her waist, pulling her close. What is your truth? Yuna smiled up at him. That I was never broken. That I'm exactly who I was meant to be. That being sold for 20 silver pieces was the best thing that ever happened to me because it brought me here. To you. To Akira. To this life. To a family that actually values me. And to think, Takashi murmured, I almost didn't buy you. The steward said 20 pieces was too much for a Barren servant. What changed your mind? I saw you in the village before the sale. Watching the market. You looked lost. But not broken. Just waiting for something. I didn't know what. But I wanted to give you the chance to find it. He kissed her temple. Turns out you were waiting for me. And you were waiting for me, Yuna added. Neither of us knew it. But we were. Akira tugged on her mother's sleeve. Mama, can I go play with the other children? I promised Ren and Mei I'd show them the new garden. Ren and Mei. Yuna raised an eyebrow at Takashi. Shen and Lin brought the children. I invited them specifically, Takashi said with a smile. I thought Akira should have friends who understand what it's like to be caught between two worlds. Yuna laughed. You're playing matchmaker for 5-year-olds. I'm fostering diplomatic relations for the next generation, Takashi corrected with mock seriousness. Completely different. Go play, Yuna told Akira, kissing her daughter's forehead. But stay where the guards can see you. I will. Akira promised, already running off with the supernatural speed she'd inherited from her father. As Yuna watched her daughter join the other children, Kaito, Ren, and Mei greeting Akira like the friend she was, she felt Takashi's arms encircling her from behind. Regrets, he asked quietly. About which part? Being sold. Being declared barren. My family's betrayal. Any of it. Yuna thought about it, really thought about it. About the pain of that year between divorce and sale. About the shame of being declared worthless. About the fear of being purchased by a vampire lord she'd been taught to fear. And about everything that had come after. The pregnancy that proved everyone wrong. The love that had grown from unlikely circumstances. The child who was proof that impossible was just another word for not yet attempted. The immortality that let her spend centuries with the family she'd chosen instead of decades with the family who'd rejected her. No regrets, she said firmly. Not a single one. Because if any of it had been different, I wouldn't be here. With you. With Akira. Living a life I actually love instead of surviving a life I was assigned. So no. No regrets. Only gratitude that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Takashi turned her in his arms, looking down at her with eyes that held 8 centuries of experience but looked at her like she was the only thing worth seeing. I love you, he said simply. I love you too, Yuna replied. Thank you for buying me. 420 silver pieces. Best investment you ever made. He laughed, genuinely laughed, the sound warm and free. Agreed. Though technically, I think you were overpriced. You're worth considerably more than 20 silver. How much more? Incalculable, Takashi said, and kissed her in the middle of the spring festival, in front of nobles and commoners and vampires and humans, not caring who saw or what they thought. Because they were family. The family they'd chosen. The family they'd built from rejection and unlikely circumstances and 3 impossible days that changed everything. And that was worth more than all the silver in all the kingdoms combined. From sold for 20 silver pieces to priceless. From barren to mother. From worthless to lady of a vampire territory. Yuna's journey proves that sometimes the people who reject us are doing us the greatest favor, they're pushing us toward the people who will actually value us. If this story resonated with you, smash that subscribe button right now, because this channel brings you tales of redemption, of rejected women who become queens, and of love found in the most unlikely places. Drop a comment. Have you ever been underestimated or discarded by people who should have valued you? How did you prove them wrong? I read every single comment. Remember, your worth isn't determined by the people who couldn't see it. It's determined by the people who do. See you in the next story, where rejection becomes victory and worthless becomes priceless.